Hello everyone and welcome to a couple of games from the Tata Steel Challengers that we are going to cover. Well, I'm going to show you briefly two of them, and the one that we are going to cover is Arjun Erigaisi versus Surya Shekhar Ganguly, as I checked out all the games and I thought this one was the nicest to show. Since it's a very nice game, but also since Ganguly is the highest rated opponent in the tournament, so I thought it'd be fitting to show this one. And as you know, Erigaisi won the tournament very nicely. I think 2 full points ahead of everyone else. It's an incredible achievement. Before we check out this one, I would just like to briefly show you. This is the position from his game against Max Warmerdam. Erigaisi had the black pieces here, and Max tried a very interesting queen sacrifice. He played a5, and Erigaisi played bishop to a6. So he attacked the rook on f1, offering the knight here, which looks really weird, but this is how the game continued. A captures on b6 was played, and now not bishop captures on f1, but rather rook to c8. Now with the threat of bishop captures on f2 check and picking up the queen, and here you have to play queen to d1, and then we go then the game just continues with whatever black decides. Probably queen captures on b6, puts more pressure, defends the bishop, and so on. But here rook captures on a6 was played. Max sacrificed the queen, and Erigaisi, of course, goes for it. Bishop captures on f2, king captures, and now rook captures on c2. B captures on a7. Now a beautiful pass pawn is created, but here comes knight b6. So the a8 square is nicely defended, and after king to g1, you have to get your king to safety, and now comes queen to c8, and this is not a problem. The rook is attacked, and you could grab the knight, and it seems like black is only going for the bishop on c1, but Erigaisi has a different plan. After rook captures on b6, queen to c5 check was played. The king did not hide deep enough, and after king to h1, just queen captures on b6. And now, of course, it's a completely winning for black. There's no way to take advantage of the pawn. You're going to win the pawn. Let's say knight f3. We're going to play queen captures on a7, and let's say bishop to f4. As the game did continue, rook captures on b2, and the white really doesn't have all that much to play for here. So that's the game against Max. Very nicely done. And here is a game. Erigaisi versus Daniel Dardha. We also checked out the game Dardha played, if you remember that brilliant miniature against Polina Shuvalova, and here knight to f5 was played. And now it looks like you could capture the knight with the bishop or the pawn, but that's definitely not suggested. So in the game, knight e to g8 was played, and now queen to g5. Erigaisi just brings more pieces into the attack, and here not g captures on f5, but bishop captures on f5 was played, but even this is completely lost for black now. So just to show you the attack, e captures on f5, now comes rook c to c8, and now bishop to e4, putting more pressure on the g6 square. So black captures here, we have knight captures, and now queen to e7, offering a queen trade. And while white could start with f captures and g6, white says nope, we can trade queens, and that's perfectly fine. This is completely winning for white, and indeed it is. There's really no defense. G6 is hanging too much. So after captures and knight captures with check, king to g7, f captures on g6. And now you really don't have a good way of recapturing, because if you capture with the f pawn, knight here, a nice fork picks up the rook. If you capture with the king, another knight to e6 opens up a discovery from the rook, picks up the rook on d8. So here knight to h6 was played, but now comes a brilliant finisher. G captures on f7, rook to d7, preparing to pick up the pawn here, but now knight to e4 with check, king f8, and now a temporary exchange sacrifice, rook to g8 check, knight captures on g8, and now f captures on g8 with queen, king captures, and now we have set up the fork, knight f6 check, and that's it. King f7, knight captures, and of course there's nothing to be done here. But the game was over, I think, even before the rook was captured. So those were some of the nice games that I decided to include in this video, although all of them are super enjoyable. But this is the one that we are going to cover in detail. Like I said, an incredibly strong opponent, and the game is very enjoyable. So let's dive straight into it. Arjun, with the white pieces, opens with e4. We have e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and the bishop to c4. We have bishop to c5, the Joko piano is on the board, and here we have c3. unfortunately, we have the Joko piano. We have knight to f6 and now d4. White strikes in the center right away. We have e captures on d4 and now e5, advancing the pawn to attack the knight. If you guys remember, we've mentioned a couple of times that the famous Greco attack is c captures bishop b4 check and knight to c3, starting the Greco attack, but the Greco attack is not nearly as powerful as it was a century ago, so people no longer play it. So here we have e5 and now we have d5. d5 is the only good reply here for black, and you should remember this if you play this with black, because everything else will just, you're just going to run into a lot of trouble. So bishop b5 and now knight to e4. So these are all top moves. This is all very standard theory. C captures on d4, bishop to b6, and now knight to c3, putting pressure on the knight on e4. So black castles and now bishop to e3. Again, nothing out of the ordinary here. Here is already a very interesting idea. Bishop to g4 and f5 are top moves here in this position, but here Ganguly plays f6, and it's a bit of a different idea, because it's like f5, you could capture, he captures on f6, even though, okay, this is not en passant, but the position would be the same. But also it means that you are not protecting your knight twice. So what happens if white just captures on e4? That's also very interesting. The idea is that after d captures, we're going to play bishop captures on c6, and after b captures, knight to d2. And now it looks like we've done great, but the problem is we do not capture on d4. We're not interested in that. We continue pushing f5, f4, and well, you're in a lot of trouble here as white. So instead, after this f6 move, Erigaisi continues with e captures on f6, and now we have knight captures on c3, b captures on c3, and queen captures on f6. So black gets a lot of pressure here along the f file, and also his bishop and knight are nicely placed, but the c3 pawn guarding the d4 pawn really makes it not all that easy for black to do anything along this line. So probably we're going to see the knight will move, c6 will be played, the bishop will be shifted to this diagonal, and so on. So here, castles by Erigaisi, and now bishop to g4, adding a third attacker to the knight on f3, so bishop back to e2 only move, and now bishop captures on f3. You could also consider some developing move or something like that, but okay, here we have bishop captures on f3, bishop captures, and now rook 8 to d8. And now we have bishop to e2, shifting the bishop over to d3. And interestingly, so far all of these moves have been played, but now comes knight to a5, and it is now as of move 16 that we have a completely new game. So what can you do here? Well, Erigaisi starts off very strong. He plays a4, and here he says, if you were ever considering placing this knight on c4, that's no longer happening. The thing is, if knight c4 now, we can just capture it and play a5, and the bishop is trapped. So there's even that. So here, c6, this is what we were planning. We want to shift the bishop to c7, grab hold of this diagonal. We have bishop to d3, and now bishop to c7. So both players have nicely developed their pieces, but if you look at white's bishop pair, it is definitely stronger than black's bishop and the knight on a5, because the knight on a5 isn't really doing all that much for the moment. So here we have queen to g4, bringing the queen into the attack. Queen h5 can also be considered just going after h7, but that can easily be prevented. So Erigaisi has a different plan. We have rook d to e8 now, and rook 8 to e1. Of course, we need to activate our rooks. Now comes bishop to d8, as you really don't have maybe a better move here with black. You just want to play queen h4 and maybe try and trade off the queens. So g3, preventing this, and now comes queen to f3. And this was the move that was just a bit too much. Now you have to play knight to c4, bring the knight into the game. Of course, the bishop to f4 will be played. We're going to try and keep our bishop pair, but after queen to f3, that's a problem, because now queen h3 comes with tempo. Of course, we are threatening queen captures on h7 or bishop captures, depending on what black plays, and now there's no good move here for black. g6 was played, but now it's completely winning for white, and it really shows you the power of the bishop pair. So feel free to pause the video. This is only the first pause the video moment, so try and figure out how to win this with white while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting a brilliant bishop maneuvering. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's bishop to e2. A very sneaky move, but the idea is that we want to bring the bishop to g4 and then to e6, hopefully, and there's not all that much black can do about this. So congratulations to everyone who found this. Now, in the game, queen to f5 was played, but we're going to check out what happens if queen to f7, then the rook is just stuck on f8, we're going to win the rook, and that's it, then white wins. And also incredibly interesting is queen to f6. We also have to consider this, because now we play bishop to h6. Okay, now the rook has the f7 square, so we're going to save the rook. But again, there's the problem. The rook can never go to e7 because then a bishop to g5 will just be too strong at some point. For the moment, it's not defended, but that's why we play f4. And now you can't play this because bishop to g5 will just be crushing. So you're going to have to play something, but there's not all that much to play. For example, if you make a move, just bishop g4 is enough to win the game. We have too much control over the e6 square. And even after this gets traded off, still bishop is coming to e6, and that's just it. There's no playing this. So actually what happened in the game was queen to f5. Ganguly offered a queen trade, but now comes a bishop to g4. This is playing right into our hand. Queen f6, and now bishop to f4. This bishop to f4 is maybe the second best idea, as we don't want to allow knight to c4. So you could play bishop to d7 right away. Now everything will be played with tempo, and after rook to e7, now bishop to f4. Now we're really just, leaving black without a move. And now if knight to c4 is played, now we just play rook captures on e7, and after queen captures, we can play bishop to h6, and there's not all that much you can play here. Again, bishop to e6, incredible threat, not much you can do about this. So instead, bishop to f4 was played. This is also sufficient, but now, okay, maybe knight to c4 is a little stronger here now. But okay, in the game, h5 was played, and now bishop to d7, attacking the rook. So rook captures, and now king to h7. And now comes rook to e6, attacking the queen. So queen to f7, and again, the position is completely winning for white, but there is only one move that wins this game, and it's not an easy one to spot. You really have to, shuffle your pieces around. So feel free to pause the video for the second time and win this game with this brilliant idea while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on being a great shuffler of pieces. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is rook to d6. This is the only winning move. Again, not an easy one to find. Maybe bishop to e2 was a little easier, but here you play rook here, bishop here, and the rook here, and then you're winning. And there's nothing black can do about this. Here, queen to e7 was played. Trying something, maybe rook to e1 can be played, but just bishop to e6, and there's no way to defend this. Rook to d7 is coming, so you're gonna lose the queen. So the thing is, if you move the king, let's say king h8, just bishop e5 check, and look at the impressive bishop pair here. This is just unstoppable. King has to go back. Now rook d7 again picks up the queen. So in the game, rook captures on f4 was played, hoping that Erigaisi will capture the rook, but just rook to d7. And now again, the queen is captured. We have rook to f6. Rook captures on e7, bishop captures, and now bishop to c8. And okay, black has a bishop, knight, and the rook against the queen and bishop, but it is definitely not compensation enough. So here, rook to d6, but now g4. We want to bust open the king side and, try and get some checks against the black king. So knight to c4. Finally, the knight rejoins the game. G captures on h5. G captures, and the bishop to e6. Now, we can capture, but maybe bishop to e6 first. We don't want to allow this rook back into the game. So king g7, we have f4 now. We could also play other things, but it's after f5, that's just game. So knight to d2, trying to get white to go for this check. Maybe then we can pick up the bishop, but Erigaisi just plays f5. He says that's not happening. And now that's pretty much it. Queen captures on h5 will be played. Doesn't really matter what black plays. Rook captures on e6 was played, but now f captures on e6. Knight to e4 and queen captures on h5. We have knight to g5 preventing queen f7. Now comes queen to e8, and now you're just gonna pick up everything on the queen side, and that's too easy of a victory. So king f6, queen d7, and he was in this position on move 42 that Surya, Shekhar, Ganguly resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So that's the third game that we enjoyed from the event. Like I said, all the games are super enjoyable, so you guys, if you want, you can check them out by yourself, and you will not be sorry. So these are the standings after all of the rounds have been played. As you can see, Erigaisi won the tournament with 2 full points, again ahead of everyone else, 10.5 out of 13. And interestingly, his coach posted on Twitter that before the tournament even started, he sent him a message that he would like to have 10.5 out of 13. That he doesn't even care all that much about winning the tournament, that it would be more important for him to get 10.5 out of 13. So if someone gets more, then okay, he played a brilliant tournament, but that's what he was going for, and that's what he achieved, which is incredibly interesting, because in the last round game against Maurizi, the game was pretty much a draw for a very long time, and then he was able to win that drawn game, just completely incredible performance in this tournament. So really incredible stuff. I very much look forward to seeing him in the Tata Steel Masters next year. And okay, you've seen that Pragyananda won the Challengers last year, and now he didn't, well, he played a great tournament, but it wasn't like in the maybe upper half of the tournament standings. So you might be thinking, how will Arjun Erigaisi do in the Masters next year? Well, we can also check out some of his results from the previous tournaments, as that's all just as incredible. So these are the standings from the Tata Steel Chess India edition, and here you can see that he won first place with a full point ahead Levon Aronian, Pragyananda, and Vidit. So that's incredible in itself. Then with 5 points you have Kartikeyan and Sam Shanklin, Maxulu, Lekwang Liam, Adiban, and Vaishali. So also crushed the tournament completely. And what I think could be an even more impressive result than actually winning the Tata Steel Challengers is his performance at the 85th Tal Memorial that was played in Riga. It was the Lindores Abbey chess tournament where after 18 rounds of incredible blitz chess, he won third place, or maybe shared second with Fabiano Caruana. There were over 100 players there, and it was really incredible. But look at the names here. Shevchenko won the tournament. We've checked out, I think, one or two games from this event, but we did not cover the event all that much. So Caruana and Erigaisi with 13.5. Then you have Martirosyan, David Navara, Jeffrey Shiong, Danil Dubov, Levon Aronian, Peter Svidler, Samuel Sevian, Gabriel Sergesian, Manuel Petrosian, Maxim Vashelagrav, Vladimir Fedosev, Boris Gelfand, Norbek Abdusatorov, Nihal Sarin, Sarana Alexei, Yesipenko, Andrei, Anton Korobov, David Anton Giharo, Volodymyr Onishchuk, Ralph Mamedov. So those are all just monsters, and you can see how well Erigaisi did. So he is improving at an incredible rate, and a lot of people are saying that he is currently the strongest young player in the world, as he is only 18 years old. Okay, if you consider just rating, then no one can say anything against Alireza. He is already 2800, but even with his vast improvement, Alireza was already in the top 10 before he improved to 2800, whereas Erigaisi, he just jumped like 50 places in the standings, and I think he is now, I don't want to lie to you, so I'm gonna check. Let me just check this. Yeah, he's currently number 80 in the world, and he jumped 54 places in the standings in classical time format. So really incredible, and well, I just can't wait to see what he does next, and how he will do next year in the Tata Steel Masters. And also, yeah, I know you guys were requesting some more games, so probably I will show his game from the Lindores Abbey against Fabiano Caruana, as that one was requested quite a lot. If you guys have any of your own favorites, do share. I might show even more. So yeah, that's the game, or rather the games. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I would like to wish a very happy birthday to Taz, and I would like to thank Yuri Ralchenko, Veifan, Paul, and Amir Maron for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon. Continuing, well, to check up on your wonderful suggestions and checking up on whatever else is happening in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.